Pakistan cricket at its best. 1 minute down, next minute up.
Thanks very much, everybody, for joining me once again. Saj Sadiq here, bringing you another exclusive interview for PakPassion. I'm delighted to be joined by my guest today. He's a former wicketkeeper-batsman for South Australia, played 101 first-class matches, over 50 List A matches, former Australia head coach, big name in the world of international coaching. He was hired by the Pakistan Cricket Board recently to work in the High Performance Centre there and alongside Jason Gillespie. Unfortunately, that stint didn't last too long. And here he is, the one and only Tim Nielsen. Tim, thanks very much for your time.
No worries, Sedge. Lovely to be here, mate. Great to see you.
Tim, let's say how it is, really. Your stint at the Pakistan Cricket Board was short and not very sweet, I guess, from the outside. What did you make of it?
To say it wasn't very sweet, it was certainly shorter than we hoped for. But to say it wasn't very sweet was probably a bit harsh. We had some really good success. It didn't start so well. We played against a Bangladesh team that played really well in the first two Test matches that we were involved with. Remembering that Jason and I were, and Jason went as the head coach, obviously, and then I went along with him as a high performance coach, were recruited to look after the red ball program solely, and Gary Kirsten was looking after the white ball program. So we were able to, I suppose Dizzy had some success and some impact initially in assessing where the Pakistan cricket group were. We were contracted for 2 years, so we felt like although the program didn't start exactly as we would like, obviously with these Bangladesh Test matches, we were able to get a good handle on the way that the team worked and the way that the players reacted to both success and to not such good days. We came up against a pretty hot Bangladesh team, actually. Big, tall Rana bowled really nicely and really did put some pressure on us. They batted well. And we dropped a couple of catches that in the end were quite crucial and were the difference between being a lot more competitive than we ended up being. But we were able to turn that around. We started tough against England. They made 800 in an innings, and that really did change the thinking in the place. We then, I believe, and I think that the numbers would show, probably we improved our fielding significantly. We caught most of the chances that were there, and then we actually batted and bowled so much better against England in those second last couple of Test matches. And I felt that was when, probably not wanting to blow our own trumpet too hard, but it was when we were starting to have some impact around the group, just in the way that they reacted to good days and not so good days, the way that they were looking at how they wanted to play, the small changes we made in the way we prepared, and it was nice and positive. We had a really good 2-1 Test match win against England, as you'd be aware. Gary then had an issue with the board, and that ended up falling out, and we ended up taking the one-day team and the 2020 team to Australia. Had some great success there with their first one-day win in about 20 years, so that was excellent. So yeah, there was as much positive, if not more positives. I tend to be a glass half full man. There was as much positive as there was negative, and unfortunately, in our situation, when we felt like we were feeling and starting to make an impact and had some time with the playing group, the board made the decision to go with a different coaching group, a different support staff, mainly for Jason. Dizzy was really keen, and I certainly was appreciative of his support, but he was really keen to have some of his own people there. And when that happened, they changed my role, and then Dizzy decided that he was going to resign as well. So that meant that we were finished probably 6 or 7 months into our 2-year plan. So we were looking forward. I was basically a day or two out from going to South Africa and awaiting our flight details when the phone call came to say they'd made the change. So that was a bit disappointing. You put your efforts in, you jump in both feet and want to have a proper crack, and then when it finishes so quickly without any real warning, that was probably a bit challenging and not a nice way to finish what had been a good little period.
That call, when it came, Tim, it must have come as a big surprise, a shock to you, and just must have come out the blue, really.
Yeah, a little bit. You start to hear a few whispers around the place. It was probably at different times it was a lack of contact that made you more concerned about things than some of the contact we were having. And when it went a bit quiet, and there was whispers and rumours and talk about what was going on with both the selection panel and the coaching staff, I probably said to Diz, I'm getting a bit of a funny feeling about this, that it might not be as positive as we thought it might be. And I suppose, if coming from such a different structure, such a different culture where we value highly some stability, some continuity, the opportunity for both players and support staff to have their impact over an extended period. So the things they're trying to implement are given a chance to become the norm rather than being maybe the inconsistent good days versus the not so good days that you have. And that was probably the most disappointing thing, mate, is that we felt, as I said, we were starting to make some ground with the group. It's such a different culture, Pakistan to the Australian culture. We were learning all about how the players prepared, how they were working, how they prayed 4 or 5 times a day. So they're different, and don't sound like big things, but in the cricket match, when players are coming on and off the ground to fulfil their obligations there, that was quite different to what we were used to. And we had got our head around those things. We were starting to create some good relationships, and not starting to. I think we had created some good relationships with the playing group. And when we had that time under our belts to think that we might be able to go to South Africa, really give them a bit of a run, because we were looking forward to that too, and knowing that they were desperate to win to get to the World Test Championship, it would have been a real good test for us. And then back that up back home in Pakistan against the West Indies. They were the 4 Test matches, or they were the last 4 Test matches for a period of time, given the ICC trophy and now the tour of New Zealand, as well as the PSL being on. So that was kind of the time frame we'd set ourselves to really try and have a really good impact in that first stages, and then we would reassess and see where we got to after that. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be.
In Pakistan cricket, the players regarded as heroes, for many, Tim, but that pressure seems to affect their ability at times. I mean, what do you gauge from the Pakistani players' mindset, and what do they need to work on to become those top players?
I've no doubt, Saj, it's stability. I think there's always a feeling, like you say, there's tremendous interest. It's a country of 250 million people, and it feels like every person in the country is on their phone, looking at the scores, watching the replays, getting the numbers, getting the dismissals. Bubba gets out and the phone goes nuts. Bubba scores 100 and the phone goes nuts. It seems when it goes well, you're the best team in the world by a while, and then when it doesn't go quite so well, you're the worst team in the world. There's no intermediate parts to it, sort of thing. There's extremes at both ends of the measures. So, I think the stability around um, selection, around preparation, around feedback, around having the openness to actually discuss things when you don't feel like you're feeling good about things, or you're not playing as well as you can, and realizing you have the support staff and their support and their willingness to try and do everything we can to try and make them play better and get back to their best is something that isn't necessarily, I suppose, consistent in Pakistan cricket. And I think it would have a huge impact if they were able to find ways to be more consistent and not continually chase the silver bullet. What's the one thing that's going to make us the world champions tomorrow? Right, we've got to do that. And then if it doesn't work, it's back to the drawing board and try and find the next one, rather than incremental hard work and growth amongst the players and the team, so that over the journey you start to have more success, more good days than bad days, and you start to stack up some consistent performances over time.
You've worked in the Australian system. You've worked 6, 7 months in the Pakistan system. What can the Pakistan cricket system learn from the Australian system, Tim?
I just think it's careful planning. It's awareness of your younger players that are coming through the system. Same Ayub, 2 or 3 of those younger guys there are just such talented players, but they're going to need some time. They're going to need some time and support to ensure that they can understand how international cricket works. They can get used to being the focus of such great attention on and off the field. They can ride the waves of having success and then having failure and then having more success and having another failure, and understanding that's part of the learning curve, and every single grade of Australian cricket, but mostly world cricket, it's not linear. They don't just go upwards and upwards and upwards, from the first time they play. There's always kind of peaks and troughs in your form and your performance. And if Pakistan cricket, I believe any cricket organisation can understand that stability is so crucially desired by the playing group to allow them to to learn and develop and try things and have success and have failure and win some games and lose some games and all of those things. If you can learn to have that stability, you will start to see the best of your best players. And like any team, you want your best players playing as well as they can. And we can't afford to put or heap so much pressure on the best players that they are scared to fail. The minute you're scared to fail, you're almost destined to fail. Your thinking becomes so careful and negative that in the end you stop thinking about how you might do well, rather start thinking about how you might not do badly. And your brain can't think about negatives too much. If I ask you to say don't look at it or don't think about the pink house, first thing that jumps into my head is the pink house. So if I'm thinking don't fail or don't play a cover drive or don't nick it, I'm thinking nick it basically, if that makes sense, or failing. So that stability, I'm a huge believer in it. It allows your team to grow together. It allows the culture of the group to become supportive and understanding, and that's when you get teams that go from being good to being very good, and then ideally they become great.
It seems like there's a bit of that scared to fail in Babar Azam's mind at the moment. We know his quality, we know about his talent, Tim, but he's going through a rough patch, isn't he?
Yeah, he has done. Yeah, and he's played some. He had a bit of a trough too, Saj. He got caught down the leg side. It just seems as though, again, this is where the stability is so important, is that you have some times where you get a nick down the leg side or you chop one on playing a normal shot that you'd play 100 times and hit it for four, and all of a sudden that happens 2 or 3 times and the doubts start to grow. And I think Bubba has gone through some times in the last little while with taking on the captaincies and then relinquishing the captaincy, then taking on the captaincy and then having the captaincy taking off him, and then talk about whether he should play 2020 or whether he should play one day or where he fits into the group. He's human. He's going to hear that noise and he's going to hear those things and he's going to react. And it's impossible for people not to react to that unless they have a really strong bind inside the change room with the group they're with. We can't control the outside noise, but we can control and try and have a positive impact with the noise and the talk and the discussion and the support that's happening inside the group. And, Bubba's a great example of such a highly talented player that's had such a huge impact for Pakistan cricket. But it's probably unrealistic to expect him to play at the level he was in those great years for his whole career. Adam Gilchrist, I reckon, was averaging 80 for an extended period in his Test career and ended up averaging over 50, but it certainly wasn't 80. The game is a great level and it finds out. And people don't stop learning about you. The opposition don't just keep doing the same things. They learn, they develop, they try and different ways to get you out or to score runs off you. And before you know it, you need to adjust and keep getting better and keep being willing to take risks to improve. And again, unless you have that support inside the group, it's very difficult to do that.
You speak of outside noise, Tim, and it's difficult for the players to drown that out. But as an overseas coach in a new system, working with new players that you've not worked with before, how tough was it for yourself to be within that Pakistan Cricket Board setup and all this noise and things going on behind the scenes?
Um, Firstly, I don't really look at social media too much for that exact reason. I just bin it and put it away if you're ever involved. Probably when I'm at home, I might look at it just to keep up with the scores, what's going on in the world of cricket, in the world of golf, the things that I enjoy looking at. But the younger generation and the uncertainty about what was going on and the way that community, the most important thing I think that is done differently from what we're used to because we're used to having just open, honest, and frank conversations. If someone's not playing well, it's our job as a support staff to say, look, we don't think you're playing as well as you can. Here's a potential solution. Here's some vision to show you how we think they're going to attack you or they are attacking you. This is the way we think we can address that, firstly in the training and the preparation phase. And then we have to have the courage to try and do those things better in the game. And if it doesn't work, that's cool. You can't change things overnight, but keep assessing, keep working together. So the outside noise, if it's not supportive, only again adds so much doubt into players' minds and it just becomes all encompassing. And then you start searching on the phone for some good news because you want to hear someone say good about you, but there ain't too much of that around. So, the negative definitely outrides the positive. And it's such a challenging situation in a country like Pakistan, and I expect it's exactly the same in India, where there is such a huge population and so much interest in the game of cricket. So many people live and die live their lives through their heroes in the cricket team, whether it be Pakistan or India, because of the passion and the love they have for the game and the love they have for their country playing well and winning. And that creates big pressure. So the board has a huge responsibility to support the playing group, to talk openly with them, to ensure that they understand when things are going well or not going so well, communicate well with the support staff so they can then be the messages again back into the team environment, because we don't need 20 different voices. We need Dizzy. Dizzy was the head coach. So he's the one that delivers those messages. And one of Diz's greatest strengths is staying calm, staying relaxed, and keeping things in perspective. But when there was such outside noise and changes being made without Dizzy even being spoken to, it's almost impossible to keep things calm. And then it naturally progresses to a stage where there's anxiousness and a worriness about, performing poorly. And again, don't look at the pink house, or don't think about the pink house. As soon as we get there, we're in real strife, because the pink house is right in front of you.
And I mean, you mentioned about Dizzy and him resigning from the role. He was left with no choice, really, was he? I mean, it was shocking, the fact that he wasn't told that you were being removed from your role.
Yeah, Diz is a very loyal man. And I think that's one thing we pride ourselves in. I went in with Diz. He gave me the opportunity with him, and I was 100% committed to whatever he and how he wanted us to go about it. And my role was to ensure that his messages were getting through to the playing group. Being the assistant coach, or whatever you want to call it, it's a nice position because you have an ability when you're not involved in selection, you're not necessarily involved in the big decisions that are made around the team. You can become a lot more comfortable talking to the players about their own game and how you might get better, and even talking and supporting them about things that are happening off the ground, whether it be family members that are sick, or people concerned about where the money's coming from, or there's issues in their hometown because of some unrest or whatever it might be. Those are the sorts of things we need to find out as a support staff. And when Dizzy gets those responsibilities dragged away from him with no communication, he too is human. And it's very simple and easy to start losing faith and confidence in the system. And once you have that situation, it's a very hard situation for an organisation to work collectively together. You start having people doubt each other, and before you know it, whether you're trying or not, sometimes some negative things come through, and however hard you try to quell it, it's impossible to do so. It becomes the normal rather than hopefully the exception every now and again.
What was it like working with the Pakistan players? Because when they win, as you said before, Tim, they're brilliant, they're the world's best, unbeatable. When they lose, there's question marks over their work ethic, their attitude. You will have, obviously, in your time working at the Pakistan Cricket Board, you'll have got to know these guys. What were they like to work with?
They were brilliant, mate. I so much enjoyed working inside the team environment. They would often talk in Urdu, which at times Jason and I would sit there while they had their discussions in Urdu. But we felt as though we trusted them and they trusted us, so they were talking. It was just easier. A couple of times players said, "Do you mind if I talk in my local language, my normal language?" And of course, we were actually, as Dizzy said, we were the visitors there. So those little differences to what we had in Australia were challenging but fun. We tried to learn. I actually at one stage wrote a little pre-day speech and got one of the boys to translate it to Urdu, and then I tried to speak in Urdu to them just to have a bit of fun with that, but also to say, it was one of the last days in the Test match against England, to say that we need a really good day, we need a strong day, we need to play really well today. Let's start all the little things that we've talked about. I can promise you, Saj, my Urdu is not very good. But the boys giggled, they had a bit of a laugh. Tika, they all kept saying G. So I kept getting the kind of feedback that I wanted from them, even though I'm sure I was butchering the language. But the time we had with the group was fantastic. I'm still in contact with a lot of them, still messaging them now while they're playing in New Zealand, just wishing them the best and hoping they're doing well. So we did have our universal language is cricket. So whenever anything else failed, you could always find a little time to sit down quietly in the corner. And even if I had to talk a little bit slowly and someone had to help out, even sometimes with a translation of little different pieces, we understood cricket. And that was the binding force that we had there. And to have some success with the group and to see them so proud, I'll never forget Babar standing in the middle of the whacker. He'd been there a few times for one day cricket with both his arms in the air and his bat up when we ended up winning the series over there against Australia. That was so special for them to do that. Those little moments were really special and something I'll never forget. It creates a little bond with those people that you have that, whilst I may not see them maybe again or very much unless they come to Australia, we've always got that little bond between us, knowing that we had some success and the things that we did together were successful.
And finally, Tim, we've seen Mickey Arthur, we've seen Gary Kirsten, we've seen yourself, we've seen Dizzy, obviously all overseas coaches working within the Pakistan system haven't been treated the best when it's come to sort of, the coaches going their own way and the PCB going their own way. Do you think there's a challenge now for the Pakistan Cricket Board in recruiting overseas coaches in future because of what's happened to you guys?
Yeah, I do. And I think you probably, if you have a look at it, there's been periods where overseas coaches have been in, they've been moved on, but the same ones have come back. So they probably realised after, Mickey was in and out and then back in again. I reckon Steve Rickson and a couple of guys were in and out, then back in again, sort of thing at different times in the past. And yeah, I do think it does create uncertainty. I know when I was speaking to Diz about, going over there, those sorts of things were what we talked about. Are we going to be supported? Are we going to have a chance to have the impact we'd like to? So yeah, it does make it tough. I think, as I said earlier, the most important thing we see in a high performing or a high performance environment, an elite environment, is that it's hard. It's not easy to bat against Cummins and Stark and Hazelwood. It's not easy to bat against England. It's not easy to bat against the West Indies. They're quality cricketers, and whilst they might not all win every game, the individuals that are playing are talented and skillful, and they make it difficult for you to perform well. So there just has to be more cohesiveness, and every time they make these changes, it chips away at that cohesiveness, both inside the playing group, inside the support staff, and inside Pakistan cricket as a whole. And I believe, until they can find a way to appoint whoever it may be, whether it be local coaches, whether it be overseas coaches, whoever they think are the right people, it can't be this stark chasm between our very best days, we're the world champions, and our very worst days, we're the worst team in the world, and we need to change. Sometimes it's just a drop catch or an umpire's decision that is the difference between winning and losing, and having a great day and having a poor day. And it seems at times that the PCB or Pakistan cricket as a whole is very reactive and they yearn success so much, but there's no silver bullets, Aj. It doesn't happen overnight. It needs to be built. It needs to have a strong foundation, and the foundation is usually winning a bit, losing a bit, losing a bit more, winning some, making a big break and overcoming a big obstacle, beating someone in Australia when you think you're playing quite well and having some real success, gathering some real confidence and belief in the way you're doing it, and then bringing in the next group of players when you possibly can, so they learn how the team's thinking. They understand how the team's playing. They become part of the playing group, and the progression happens over time rather than, we've had a bad day, we're going to drop 4 blokes, we'll bring in these 4 blokes and they better play well. If they don't, well, we'll drop them as well and we'll start again. Because in the end, there's just no consistency in thought. There's no consistency in preparation. And most importantly, there's no consistency in care for the playing group. They're the ones that are out there putting their backsides on the line every day, and we have to support them and understand it's a really tough job. So, yeah, it'll be hard to get overseas coaches. It'll be hard to get people that are willing to move to Pakistan, because it's difficult. It's such a different cultural place. It's difficult to get in and out of. It's great that we had the ICC trophy there. It's great that we're now having all the teams tour and going back to Pakistan. It's a great place to be. But the perception of overseas people is not necessarily that. If you haven't been to Pakistan, you usually hear and see, probably will remember the more negative things rather than the positive things. So to make these good coaches, good people come back, we need to give them time, support, and ensure they understand how good a place and how good a people are there. And at the moment, I don't believe they're doing that consistently enough. It just seems to chop and change too quickly.
Fascinating hearing your thoughts, Tim, on the world of Pakistan cricket and beyond, and absolute pleasure speaking with you. What are you up to at the moment? A bit of golf?
Yeah, a bit of golf, mate. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
got 2 young grandkids. Just had a second grandkid about 6 weeks ago. So that's
Congratulations.
very lucky, very cool. Yeah, thank you. They're very happy and well. I'm just actually up in Brisbane at the moment doing some work with Papua New Guinea cricket, one of the associate countries. So doing some coaching work, working with their under-19 squad at the moment, and then looking like doing a bit of work with their senior male team in the future and helping them maybe with their systems and how things set up as well. So yeah, got plenty of cricket stuff going on. I'm setting up a personal coaching business back in Adelaide, which has started really nicely. So, yep, changed the shirt, but it's still cricket, mate. So I'm very lucky. I'm working in a game I love, and I'm really enjoying it. Yeah.
Thanks very much, mate. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Seth. Good on you, mate.